Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Living in Loserville podcast, Purple People Eaters edition. Of course, we're going to talk Minnesota Vikings football. Our Vikings got a great win over the Oakland Raiders, soon to be Las Vegas Raiders, in dominant fashion. No doubt about it. I mean, the offense, the defense, the special teams, except BP. I mean, it was just an all purpose, all around great game. Zimmer, the one eyed pirate, the one eyed bandit, was all smiles after. He's loving this offensive line. He's loving the line of scrimmage at this point, both sides. Defense, offense, gotta love it, no doubt. And, we were right too. We both picked a winner. I picked a winner, more like 8 to 10 points, whereas my co-host Aaron, he called for a blowout, and a blowout is exactly what we got. Go figure, 21-0, 3 weeks in a row. Now, obviously, last week that wasn't a good 21-0, but that is pretty phenomenal and pretty just strange that we hit that 21-0 mark again this week. Kind of crazy. But anyway, like I said, we will recap this Raiders victory. Next week, we got a big one. The black and blue division. We were just talking off air that, this offensive line, the zone fit for them has been really, really good. It's been great, not really, really good. It's been phenomenal, actually. But next week, we're really going to find out just how physical of a run game we got and just overall in general defensive side as well. But yeah, we're going to break this one down. The offense, once again, Dalvin keeps it cooking. This dude is just a beast. The O-line just opening up holes. Irv Smith Jr., the rookie tight end, flashed. He actually led the team in yards. The defense looking nasty, no doubt about it. And one thing I do know, when Linval Joseph is healthy, he is a man amongst little boys, and that's what we saw. So we're definitely going to break that down. Like I said, start with the Raiders stuff, go on to the Bears items. We're going to talk a little bit about a trade. Go figure, the one-eyed Jack Bandit wants another corner. Ramsey might be coming to the Vikes. I don't think it's going to happen, but we were talking about that off air. We'll share our thoughts on that. Then, of course, we're going to preview this Bears game on the road. Big game. Do we want to go down 0-2? I don't think so. I don't think we want to go down 0-2 in the division. Is it a must-win? No, but damn, it sure would be nice. No doubt about it. We'll preview and predict that Bears game. Talk a little trade stuff, like we were saying, a little injury stuff as well. Klein, the right guard that we brought in, who is he up close to 50 games started in a row now? Hopefully he can start next week. He did get put in that concussion protocol. He's listed as questionable for the game next week. So we'll see. It is a primetime CBS game. So we'll see how that works out for this team. As we know, last year, the primetime games, it was pretty scary. And we figure, since we're on Minnesota Vikings football, right? Since we're on the local football club, we figure there's going to be a certain percentage of you that will care at least about our Minnesota Gopher football program as well. So at the very end of the podcast, we will talk a little bit about the Gophers traveling to the Boilermakers there in Purdue for an interesting game. Should be an interesting game. Hopefully the Gophers come out alive or get that victory, more than like to move to 4-0, but we'll find out. By the way, if this is your first time listening to the liver, sometimes it feels like that, getting hit in the liver, the Living in Loserville podcast, of course, the Purple People Eaters edition. You can stream it right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. It's under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast umbrella. It streams live at archives on Blog Talk. It's basically the headquarters. However, if you listen to your podcast on Apple Podcasts, we're there. Player FM, TuneIn, Spreaker, all that good stuff. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. That can be found everywhere as well. Apple Podcasts, yada, 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 including iHeartRadio as well. And actually, through Siri and Alexa, you can use TuneIn or Spotify to check out the Living in Loserville podcast under Rope a Dope or The Grueling Truth. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.net? That's thegruelingtruth.net. They got a great sponsor over there, betnow.eu. That's betnow.eu. TGT, as in The Grueling Truth. TGT is the promo code. And one more thing before we start breaking down this Viking stuff. If you're thinking about cutting the cord or you already have and you're just not happy, you got all these sports on, you need some sort of cable package, try AT&T Now. It's not DirecTV Now. It's now AT&T Now, which is a cable streaming service. There is a 7-day free trial, but the plans start as low as $50 a month. That's with HBO included, by the way. Like I said, 7-day free trial, no annual contract. They have the cloud DVR. You can stream it anywhere. Check it out, okay? AT&T Now. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host Aaron to the fold and see how he's doing. So, Aaron, we both called for victories, clean victories, but you called for basically a blowout, and that's exactly what we got. Overall, 2-1. If the Vikings could just play at home every week and the Twins could play on the road, man, we would have something cooking. That's for sure. We'd be out of Loserville in a second. But by the way, go Twins. Let's see them, close this stretch here of September, just being a local fan, a local Living in Loserville member. But Aaron, what a hell of a all-around performance by this squad, man. They look really good.
It really was a really good performance. And, I had to shake off a little of the flop sweat from week 3 last year. We lost to the Bills in a game at home, kind of the same situation. And so it's kind of good to see the Vikings come out and do what they had to do and beat a team that they should have beat. It was an overall great day, great running game. So we'll get into all that coming up here.
No doubt about it. And, right off the bat, 6 plays, 76 yards, almost 4 minutes, I believe. Touchdown, 7-zip before you knew it. Irv Smith caught a ball. Cook had it cooking, like I said, and then Thielen caught a touchdown on a rollout off the play action. And that's something we're really starting to see is that rollout. And Cousins, after the game, said, Green Bay took away a lot of that rollout. They weren't having it, so we tried something else. Well, the Raiders weren't doing that. Beautiful play there. Great play, and that does take arm strength. Hit him right in stride so Thielen could just walk in. Great way to get up, no doubt about it. And then right away, 3 and out on the first possession for the Raiders. Defense came out looking strong. It was nice to see Mike Hughes, the second-year guy who, was definitely showing something. Got that, INT. Actually, it was a pick 6 now that I think about it in game 1, but did, get hurt, obviously, very in a major way with the MCL, ACL thing. But Hughes was back in the nickel. Zimmer, did talk about how he missed a couple tackles, but it's really about just getting out there. He covered up on that 3rd down, got the ball back, and next thing you know, it was 14-zip. Just with 5 seconds that tick-tocked off the clock in the second quarter, really early on, 14-0. Couple of plays on that second drive, 3rd and 18, screen pass, and Cook damn near got it. There was a penalty, so we moved the ball anyway. Cousins, second week in a row, actually, I suppose 3rd week in a row, off-schedule run for a 1st down. I was like, whoa, what's going on? What is going on? Then there looked to be some sort of miscommunication with the quarterback and the wide receiver. He seemed like he was going to run a little bit more of the route, and Carr just threw it over his head right into Harrison's hand. Harrison intercepted it, ran it back a little bit, and then it was kind of like run-in pass catch for Cook. When we got out, we had to use our short yardage back now, which is surprisingly Kirk Cousins, and he tried that sneak. I don't think it was planned, but it did look like there was a little gap. But you know what? You could tell he doesn't have a lot of experience with the short yardage, nor should he. But it was right near the end zone. He went for it, got clobbered in the process, but he needed to follow Klein. He needed to follow his lead blocker. Like I said, I don't think that was designed. He just saw an opening. But as we know, in that short spaces, that's what makes defenses so tough, especially our defense. Not that he was going against it, but once you get backed up, there's no deep ball, and you can really get to the spot quicker than he thought. But it didn't really matter. We had Thielen on an end around looking like about 3 or 4 years ago when we, either it'd be a punt sneak or just an end around to him. He scored 21-0. He actually got hit pretty good on that play, still managed. Now, they had a flea flicker touchdown pass to make it 21-7. But at the half, man, we had Cook going. Just tell me where your mind was at. 21-7, feeling pretty good about it. And also, they were going to get the ball back. So it's 21-7. They had scored, in the last chunk of the second quarter. So there was a chance they could come out. Now, of course, a 3-and-out and then a 10-play drive, 92 freaking yards, over 5 minutes ensued after that. But, we talked about this off air too. When you can open up holes like that, good luck trying to get Cook on the ground. And he showed speed, he shows power, he shows shiftiness, and he's got, like the feet of a tap dancer.
He's very fast, and you leave him a little bit of a crease. He's got great vision. He can see. I remember the cutback run he had. I don't know if that was in that time frame that you're talking about, but that was impressive. And to see it, kind of work its way in with the offensive line, basically just collapsing that whole side of the line and letting him make a cutback, it was really impressive. And, the running game itself has been impressive and a bit shocking. I think getting rid of what they did last year and coming in with something new was definitely paying dividends for them. And offensively, Kirk, it was still Kirk in a way, had some batted balls, but I thought overall the energy offensively was good. And I knew going in that time period that you're talking about now, I knew that it was going to be a pretty good game. They seemed like things were going their way. They're moving the line of scrimmage, and it seemed like as long as they didn't turn the ball over or make dumb mistakes penalty-wise, that they were going to have a pretty good game offensively. And then defensively, we'll get to it later, but I just thought that was really shining. They seemed really energetic and ready to play defense that day. So I thought the Raiders didn't really stand much of a chance, as I called earlier last week. But, I didn't think it would be quite as decisive in the beginning. I thought maybe we would wear the Raiders down and Cook would break something in the fourth quarter. But like you said, they really just came out of the gate firing.
Yeah, I mean, really, one of the biggest negative is Beebe. One, he got hurt. Two, he fumbled again on a punt. He botched another punt return. And so that's not a good look. Obviously, we had a guy there once upon a time for about 9 years, a local guy that took care of those duties and would spot in for cornerback when we needed him. Cousins was good on third down. We were 5-9 on third down. Didn't have to get into a lot of them, but we made a couple of plays just to keep the drives going. Another thing is Rudolph and Thielen both had several the cornerbacks and linebackers had several pass interference calls too. So you got to think of that. Those are extra chunk yardage that we probably would have gotten. And Diggs too. Remember, Diggs would have busted away from that one corner, but he grabbed his face mask knowing he was beat, and that could have been a touchdown. So sometimes, how we don't have Randy Moss on our team, but how sometimes we didn't have the stats today, but Randy got, he got us lined up right by the end zone a couple times. Those are explosive penalties, I guess you could put it. And we saw that a couple different times. So you got to put that into the overall equation of, we got 385 total yards. Yeah, we only threw for 174, but 8.3 a catch, only 15 completions. That's damn good. And another thing, no sacks. So they played so damn good that way, establishing the run, that really took care of business. And the time of possession would have been even more had it been, we took out so many starters by that time, but rushing for over 211, 5.6 a clip, 38 carries. I mean, this stuff's getting ridiculous. And just to kind of clean it out, like we said, Irv Smith made a couple of nice plays. That last play, he turned it back up even more instead of trying to bruise his way out of bounds, picked up some more yards. There was actually that play you were talking about with Cook, it was a 2nd and 15, and it was power, it was cuts, it was everything. Picked up that first down, and Matson, the backup running back from Boise State, that was a hell of a leaping touchdown for your first ever touchdown in the NFL. That capped a 10 play, like I said, 92-yard drive, 524 burnt down. And then the defense said, nah, we're having a 4th down stop. And so I liked what I saw in even the second half, getting those 2 field goals. You're burning clock. You're wearing down the team. So the offense looked great. Like I said, Klein, I hope that it was more of like he was dinged up and he was passing some of the protocol, but they just wanted to make sure, and hopefully he's going to be okay. Another thing we talked about, all the positives on offense. I'd say the only really negative is still too many holding calls in general, whether it's tight end, whether it's pass interference, whether it's just holding on the center or whatever. I'd say that we could cut back on that, but how mad can you really get? And to top it off, Aaron, that guy Carlson, who had hit 17 in a row, I heard a big old ding. I don't know about you, but I heard a goalpost get ding-donged, and Zimmer is still in his head, even after all this a year goes by, and Carlson misses a field goal. So, that was a good way to kind of recap the offense. It's just the game in general. Dude's getting booed by the team that he got cut for, and then he goes ahead and it misses that kick. You got to love that in that weird little guilty pleasure way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was, you couldn't have written a better story as far as we're concerned with Carlson. It was a dramatic, miss, dinged off the upright. And I think he did that a couple times in his short stint here. Was it like 2 games? I think he hit a crossbar in the preseason, and then he hit one in Green Bay, in the dreaded Green Bay debacle.
Yeah,
that they set him up right in the middle of the field, and I'll never forget that one. But yeah, that was a fitting bow on the end of that present. So it was a nice win. You brought up Madison. I was going to bring him up, and that's a pretty impressive 2-back little set there that we have with those 2 running backs. They're the same, but not the same. A little more power with Madison, still a little bit less speed, but a good changeup. And then Boone came in and had a nice run himself. So I feel like the holes are there. You just got to run through them, and I think they're doing that. Continue to run the football. It's going to be a tough test coming up this week.
Man, no doubt about it. And, we harped on the defense for that first quarter and a half last week. Well, no problems here. I mean, Kendricks, the captain on linebacker, head linebacker, right? The guy, the middle linebacker, he was all over the place. Wilson filling in, getting more spot time for Barr. I thought he shined as well. Of course, Everson Griff doing Griff things. Hunter's always looking like he is getting bigger. He makes Arnold Schwarzenegger look small, doing his normal thing. He's got a bunch of tackles for loss. But something that really shined, dude, when you got a healthy Linville Joseph, which that was not the case last year. When you got a healthy Linville, that 4th down play where they stopped it, and it was just like nobody moved in the middle. Besides a little push, coming back at him by Joseph, he got up and just did the flexes like, there's like 8 guys around him. He's just flexing on him. I was like, oh, yeah. It's like, give that guy a turkey bone, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying. It really makes a difference when you got one of the better guys down there in Joseph, and that really keys a lot of our defense, if we're being honest.
Yeah, he's really steady in there when he's healthy, like you said, and he is kind of the cornerstone of that defense, and we're going to need to find someone behind him at some point. He's not the youngest guy, but he really makes a big difference in there, and he gets a lot of pressure, also stops the run. Is going to talk about Kendricks a little bit. He's always around. I think he's one of the better middle linebackers in the league. He's a little unorthodox. He's not as big, but he's fast and he's smart, and he gets to the ball. And like we've always talked about, you and I, about how he doesn't put big hits, but he gets the guy to the ground. He's got interesting ways of tackling. Like he's not going to knock your head off, but you're going to get tackled. And it's always nice to see that. Eric Wilson, he's kind of coming up to me as that new Anthony Harris now that Anthony's starting. He's that guy comes in and makes plays. You don't see him a lot, but when you do, he makes a play, and it's usually a positive play. He's had a few penalties, but nothing big. And then Griff is back to being Griff again. I can't tell if it's their tackle. Maybe he's not the greatest tackle in the world, but I'll give Griff the benefit of the doubt. He's definitely the energy, the spark plug for that defense. And I thought just overall defensively, they came out with a renewed energy. It looked like they, even the tackles you were seeing, they were being more precise with their tackling. They were a lot more energy or talking to each other, and kind of seemed like they're getting a little bit more excited about playing. I mean, they've been together for a while. This could get to be old hat for them. You work with someone for 6 years, it's probably down to a routine, and you get everything, maybe break that up a little bit, add a little bit more energy in. And so I thought overall it was a dominant defensive performance, which it should have been. The Raiders are not the greatest offensive team. They have a good quarterback, but is he that good? That's a question we can maybe try to answer on a later date. I don't know how I feel about Carr. He's good sometimes. He's not good other times. And, he's one of those pressure guys where you put him in a tough spot. He doesn't really seem to perform all that well. And we know what that's like for sure. So I really thought the defense played extremely well. I got nothing really to say. There weren't any dumb penalties. Even Rhodes played well. Everybody just played well. It was nice to see them come out with a dominant performance in a game that they should have dominated.
Yeah, well said. And, with Carr, I don't think he's as good as it felt like the first couple seasons because that offensive line was just disgusting. And I remember a couple years back, I think it was a road game where we made him look really bad. And, we see that quarterback play since we've been alive a lot of times, excluding a handful of years. But like you said, when there's struggle, when there's pressure, when the guy's not comfortable in the pocket, when he's getting hit, when he throws, when he gets hit while he throws and the ball's on the ground, and we've seen it all, no doubt about it. But we've also seen our defense do that to plenty of great quarterbacks, let alone a Carr. So I think he just got a really good start to his career because that offensive line was just so damn dominant. And it just seems like without that, and now his weapons are gone, it just, it is what it is. Now, that's not all his fault, but that's for sure. But, yeah, I think he's just kind of the middle of the pack type of guy. And here we are. So Chicago's coming up, big game. We're 0-1 in the division. Now, Chicago's been struggling offensively. Last year they had the new scheme, and it was just, we'll set this guy over there. We're going to confuse him. We're going to do about 8 plays, but they're all going to be confusing because you don't know where anybody's lining up. So they got this, this quote-unquote offensive genius. Well, so far, so bad in the first 2 games. They have looked really, really bad. However, tonight in the third quarter, early third quarter, they've put up 28 points. They're up 28-3 on Washington. Now, not all 28 points was Washington because I believe there was a pick 6, but was Chicago because I think there was a pick 6 in there. But I'll say this: it's kind of nice that they're getting this out of their system instead of getting it out of their system against the Vikings, which living in Loserville, that's the reason why we call this podcast, because we all know, that team's struggling offensively. Just wait till the next week, dude. They're going to find their groove and somehow, A-Rod's having a bad playoff run. Just wait. The Twins will play him and he'll dominate for 5 games. That's just how it goes in Loserville. So it is kind of nice that I shouldn't say nice, but hopefully they're just getting this out of their system and they're not going to be as dominant as what's going on as we speak. But if you look at them, they lost 10-3. The Bears, in that Thursday game, couldn't really get much going offensively, obviously. The quarterback there, Trubinsky, it's tough to, he had a decent day, but they only ran the ball for 46 yards, against Green Bay in that opener. And they run / pass, and Trubinsky is really good at, when there's nothing there, when the play breaks down, he'll just get those first downs, and they'll kill you. Now, Jones for Green Bay, the running back who, by the way, got 100 yards on the Purple People Eaters, the new wave of them. And by the way, the 1969 Purple People Eaters on that Sunday game, they definitely celebrated that. So that was nice to see. I wanted to bring that up. And Bud Grant still looks like he could kick your ass. So that's cool. That's always nice. But obviously, they I mean, he was 13 carries and 39 yards in that opener. Now, they just couldn't get much going either side in that game. But they didn't really bode that well. The Bears did the next week. Now they won 16-14, but that was on some 53-yard field goal that they had to have all these crazy things happen. A gutsy cheap point, just all this stuff went right for the Bears in game 2 to win that game against Denver. Trubisky 6 of 27 for $120. They did run the ball pretty well. Our guy Patterson got in there. Cordell got in there and ran twice for 50 yards, of course, right? That's how he does it. He had a 46-yarder. So they ended up with 153 yards. Not that the Broncos are like the nastiest defense, but they still managed to get 90 yards of rushing as well. I keep bringing up this rushing stat because, well, that's what it's going to come down to. This week here, like I said before, and we said before we got on, we think we're a physical group up front. Well, we're going to get tested. And last year, although the games were very winnable, man, it got ugly. And once we couldn't run, I mean, talk about run, you could barely hand the damn ball off and someone was in the backfield. So we got to bring in, our big boy boots for this one. I mean, look at Trubisky tonight. 20 of 23 for 3 touchdowns. He's been sacked a couple times. It hasn't been the run game, though. Washington's shutting that down. But the pass game seems like it's finally opening up. Keenum's had a decent year. He's doing all right. Well, actually, he's not. I looked at the wrong stat. He has 3 picks. And by the way, Keenum 2 years ago had 4 different games of under 200 yards passing. So just remember that when you see Cousins have 171 this last week with all those pass interference plays, by the way, because I know everybody wants Keenum. That's how we'll win the Super Bowl, even though we had him and we didn't win the Super Bowl. But yeah, he has 3 picks tonight. Now, I don't know if those are all his fault because I haven't been watching it tightly. Obviously, Peterson, AP, has 8 carries, 31 yards, by the way. But yeah, Chicago's looking real good on offense, just in time for the meeting of the minds in the black and blue division next week. Primetime game again, too. That second slot, that 325 Central slot in primetime nationally.
Man, you made a lot of great points there, and I'll just start unpacking a few of them. Just in time the Bears start playing well. Living in Loserville, my friend. Just in time they start getting it together. You think, I had that written down in my notes that they weren't playing well offensively, and then you go and throw that score at me. I'm like, well, that changed. And it just seems like the Bears are a team either built to beat us or they just have all the annoying components that give us a hard time, particularly offensively. They got a back. Tariq Cohen's the kind of back that we don't like. He catches balls, kind of Theo Riddick type of guy that would kill us every year. And then you got, the big back now, this Montgomery kid who's power, kind of like AP, good running back. And then you got, Trubisky, who will get you every time. If you're not watching him, he's going to run for a first down. That just annoys the crap out of us. It seems to happen all the time. Then you got their defensive line that's, just straight gangster. I can't say it any other way. Those guys are just beasts. Akeem Hicks, Khalil Mack, the 2 other guys. I mean, they're just big, strong dudes. It's like having 4 Linvalls. Not really, but really. And so you just kind of look at these Bears games and you're like, wow, it's going to be a tough matchup. And it is going to be a tough matchup. And then you got to go, we never win on the road there. I mean, 1 every 6 times do we win on the road. So it's going to be an interesting game on Sunday. Then you throw in the prime time with Kirk and his problems with prime time. It's not really prime time like 7 o'clock, but it's prime time like 3:25, as you mentioned. Yep. And so you got to hope that you got to hope that his butterflies don't take over the game. I look at our football team, and it's like we're such a good football team, Chris. We're deep, we're young, we're athletic. We got guys that we need to have in every position, and it just comes down to that frickin' quarterback again. And we paid a lot of money to get a quarterback that we thought wouldn't be an issue like that. Now, yeah, he can make all the throws, and yeah, he can, read a defense and go through his
Right.
progressions, but now he's got nervous issues, and you got to worry about him every time you play afternoon. So, it's just kind of that thing again where, the more things change, the more they stay the same. That leading to my prediction for this week. I like it to be a low-scoring game, a lot of running the ball and defense from both teams. I'm thinking we're going somewhere 13-10, and unfortunately, I got to give this one to the Chicago Bears.
Damn nabbit. Had to give it to the Bears, huh? Christ's sakes. But I understand. I do understand. I get it. No doubt about it. It is, and
it's Kirk in prime time is what it is.
Not just that, but let's
I just don't trust him, man.
That's fair, but let's keep it all in perspective on primetime Viking Kirk. I'm not going to dig into his past, but because I don't want him to dig in my past.
Okay, well, let's leave it there. What has he done in any game after, 12 o'clock on Sunday? Monday night, he's been horrible. Sunday nights, he's been horrible. Any nights, he's horrible, whether it's Washington or Minnesota. Now, I know this isn't a night game. This is a 325. So it's not technically a night game. But you're going to Chicago. It's another division game.
Yeah, it is a big primetime game, basically. Now, here's my point, though. Here's my point. Okay, since 2017, which obviously includes the 13-3 year, right? Because 2018 is when the Super Bowl got played. The Vikings are 19-1 when they have 25 rush attempts. As we know, last year, we were 27th in rushing attempts. I'll say this till I'm dead and blue in the face. We were second in attempts 2 years ago, 27th, and that's with running the ball about 150 times those last 3 games when we got rid of what's-his-toes who wanted to pass all day. So before we start just saying it's only Cousins, that's it, Cousins has to do it, well, we got to get a run game. We got to get a play action. Can we do 70% of what we've done so far? And I'll say what we've done so far, though, this is pretty impressive. If you look at Cook is the 5th player ever in the history to have at least 110 yards and a touchdown through the first 3 games. The other 4 to accomplish that, they're enshrined in the Hall of Fame. Okay, it's the second most yards behind AP in 2012. We know what year that was. That was when he was second all time. So we do have to keep that in mind. By the way, real quick, this is from Adam Patrick, straight cash homie on Twitter. For the 6th time since 2009, the Vikings have at least 2 wins in their first 3 games of the season. During the previous 5 seasons that began with that thing, 2 out of 3, we made the playoffs 4 times. So we can do this even – I'm trying to set it up positively because I'm picking them to lose too. But remember, let's see what that pocket looks like, Aaron. We can't just say, well, it's just going to come down to him. Well, we got to run the ball to set up our offense. Who the hell's going to do good against the Bears when it looked like that, when you're handing the ball off and you're getting hit? So it's a combination. It is a combination. So it's not just, well, he had all time in the pocket. No, he was getting destroyed in the pocket. So, and early in the season, midway through the season, he was getting hit in completing passes. And as we know, by the end of the season, he was hearing footsteps that weren't even there. And as far as the coming back, it's kind of crazy. Daniel Jones made his first start, or he didn't make his first. Did he make? No, he got pulled. No, he started. They were down by 18, came back, right? Eli Manning, who, by the way, has 2 Super Bowl rings and is going to be a Hall of Famer, like it or not, out there. But Eli Manning, down by 18, is 0 for 44. So before even that 21-zip last week, there's only like 9 times in the last 20 years as a team come back from 21-0. And we should have come back, by the way. And by the way, he shouldn't have thrown that fucking horrible pick. But before we start running him out of town, remember, it's all about Does he have the time? Now, if we give him the time, if we give him, and I'm not saying 150, if Cook has 16 carries for 75 yards, now we're talking. That's a pretty damn good day against the Bears. Am I right?
And more good points. I hear them, but I envision it like this. It's going to be tough sledding running the football. Okay, this is just the way I'm seeing it. It's going to be tough to run the football. We're going to try to run the football, and we're going to continue to try to run the football. That's fine. But when it comes down to Kirk in the moment, in the game, at one point in this game, just like the one last year, and I'm not saying everything's different, and please, Kirk, hear my words and prove me wrong. But at some point in this game, whether it's a sack fumble, whether it's a bad throw over the middle like last year, got picked off, something is going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong here. I'm not trying to run Kirk out of town. I mean, we've got him for a couple of years. He's better than a lot of quarterbacks that have come through this town. And I'm happy to have him, but he needs to get over this pressure thing that he's got. It has to happen. He's got all the tools that he needs. He just needs to get over this thing. Now, I don't know him personally, I'm not going to.
Pocket, though. Along with the clean
yes,
pocket.
Which I think is going to be rare in this game.
I'm saying at times.
We can do our run game all we want. But when he has to sit back there and
75 yards, would that be looked at as like a damn good game against the Bears, right? 75 yards if we got that rushing with Cook?
On 16 carries?
Whatever, yeah, 18, 16.
Yeah.
Being
that'd be great.
10 plus, let's put it that way.
Sure.
Now, if we get to that point, then I'll start saying, okay, Cousins, there's got to be an open pocket someplace because it's play action time. Then I'm with you. I guess it was the way you went with it's all going to come down to him. Well, potentially, yeah, for sure. But we don't know that until we see the game and see some time in the pocket. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just envisioning something like 16 carries, 40 yards.
Right.
And needing to pass the ball. And I'm not saying we're going to be down because I think our defense is stout enough. It's going to hold up against Trubisky, although I like I pointed out before, his getting out of the pocket for these first down runs is annoying. But, I just feel like it's going to come down to Kirk at some point, and I really want him to make the play. And, I don't have faith right now that he will, but I want him to. I want him to make the play. And I feel like it's going to come down to that. Please, Kirk, make the play.
And the way you just termed that and clean that up, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. And so we met halfway. No, but really, we need more of that in this country. Damn it. No, okay, well, that's a different show. But yeah, like I said, if we can just get something, if we can just get something on the ground to set up something, But you're right. I mean, in this game, regardless, I mean, I'd be shocked if we didn't have to pass 30 plus times. I'd be completely shocked. So we're gonna find out, man. But by the way, okay, so I'm at that 19-16 ugly win. Although they've had kicking problems too. Of course, they just hit one in the clutch, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm going with the loss too. 2-2 after this. Let's hope we're both wrong. That would be great. Anything else Vikings wise? Let's talk Ramsey. Let's talk Ramsey real quick, then we'll get to the Gophers. All
right, so Jalen Ramsey, nobody knows where he's going to end up. There's rumored interest. I haven't heard anything come out of Viking camp about actual interest in him. And you and I were talking a little bit off air about, what we'd be willing to give up to get him and, how happy Zimmer might be. Christmas comes early for Zimmer. And you had mentioned something I hadn't thought about. You could go on and elaborate a little bit more about maybe, with Trey Wayne's contract situation, how that could make him a player maybe possibly suitable for a trade in that department. I know that Jacksonville's asking for 2 first-round picks, which is a little steep, I think, for anyone who doesn't think they're really going to get that. But we had mentioned, a first and a second, first and a third, first and Wayne's. So, you stood somewhere in the player and pick zone, whereas I was more of the pick zone. So you still stand by that?
Yeah. The 2 first-round picks is a lot. I'd be really worried about that. But as we spoke offline, when you think about it, well, we're probably going to pick, because that's what we do every other year, if not every year. We pick a corner in the first round. So if it's a first and second, if it's Trey Wayne's a first and a second, or first and third, whatever, then we don't have to worry about it because we got Ramsey. And like you alluded to, which I really like the sounds of it, is now we have the guy to take over for the guy too, and now we got two big physical dudes. So Rhodes doesn't always have to go against the best guy every single solitary week. You know what I mean? So that helps him in general, and they both, like I said, Trey Waynes isn't going to be here. I'd be really surprised. So why not get something for him, which this would be upgrade, and then you re-up with him, and then you got both your corners signed. The 2 first-round picks, that one's tough. But like I said, if we don't do it, we're gonna have to pick a corner again. I know people out there in Minnesota, Loserville land doesn't like it, but we're gonna have to. The one-eyed bandit needs something to do in the offseason, and so that's what it's all about. And this guy, we don't need to put boxing gloves on. He's ready to go. Ramsey is a phenomenal player. Yeah, maybe he was ready to square up with his defensive coach on the sidelines. I understand that. Defensive side is a little bit more crazier, let's be honest. They get a little bit more physical. That's their whole thing, physicality. And then you got the other layer. He's a Florida player, so you don't just run up on a Florida player. That's not how that works. You have to still respect them. No, but Ramsey had to respect his coach. I'm obviously playing around, but I'm not playing around. Long story short, long-winded like per usual. 2 first-round picks seem a little long, but a first and a second, or a first and some change with Trey Waynes, man, that sounds good, because I don't see Trey Waynes here next year, so why not get Ramsey? This dude's a stud. Where do you stand on that, sir?
I agree, man. I think I'd be tempted to do the 2 firsts, like I said earlier, in non-successive years. So, one in 2020, one in 2022. And then,
Sure.
you still get that middle one. He's that kind of player. He's shown that he's still young, and to work with Mike Zimmer just be a huge advantage for him and for Mike Zimmer. I mean, this would make Mike pretty happy to have the league's best corner to work with again. He already had Dion. Now he'll have Ramsey. Now, I don't know how rock solid these rumors are.
Yeah.
I just heard it, kind of like our names in the mix of 6 teams. Have you heard anything more than that?
Yeah, it does seem like we followed up or whatever, because everybody in the league called. You know what I mean? And I think we just called back twice. You know what I mean? Like, well, Zimmer still likes this guy, so Zimmer said, "I'll throw in my other eye for this trade." So he'd go blind to get Ramsey on his squad. Yeah, that's all I've heard. Is literally almost every team called because of the value of this guy, and which it's clearly there for people that don't like people that talk shit. You can not like somebody, that's cool, but I like to look at what they do on the field too. And if someone's a little bit more way more flamboyant, I understand we're in the Midwest, but that's what that position basically requires. I mean, you have Daryl Green, and then who's the other humble corner out there? Winfield. Okay, Winnie was humble. That's about it. We got Winfield and Daryl Green. Those are 2 years we've been on this planet, 40 plus years. I'm okay with flamboyancy in the cornerback position and the wide receiver position, by the way. That's what it is. They're not even in the huddle sometimes. Dion didn't go in a huddle. He doesn't even know how to go into a huddle. Where's my guy? That's who I'm picking. What's the play? My play is I'm covering this dude. I would love it. And you sold me on the gap between first rounds. I'd be on board for that, sir.
Yeah, to trash talking, man. I mean, if there's going to be a position where you're going to want that's going to be at cornerback, and where you can actually tolerate it, it's going to be at cornerback.
Right.
I mean, you think Rhodes is a church kid out there? He's not, man.
No.
Rhodes is out there talking just as much as anybody else. I mean, that's what they
Yeah.
do out there. Wide receivers and corners, they talk, man. And he's the best at it. And I think, having another dominant defensive player to go with a really good bunch already, that would be lights out. I think you can lock down the both corner positions. You can move if you still have Waynes. He can go and play in the slot. You still got McKenzie. You got Hughes. You got Hill when he comes back. So you got a lot of depth there. Also pieces to move for draft picks and so on to get something back. Linebacker, we're set for a while. We got kids coming up with Eric Wilson. So I think depth-wise, this team is great, and that would just be a cherry on top. And to wrap up this Bears look and this Ramsey talk and get on to the Gophers, I'm excited about this game, man. It's the first Big Ten game for these guys, and they're on the road. It's going to be a tough test.
It is. It is. And it's weird. College football is just strange like that. You're dealing with 18 to 22 every once in a while, like a 26-year-old on BYU, on the missionary stuff. But you just don't know week in and week out what you're gonna get. And we just did a college football show earlier, and you could see these guys. They're just this team looked good this week. The next week they look like crap. And in every game, we've played really well in spots and just stubbed our foot over and over and over again with turnovers and penalties. And obviously that can't happen. Now, when we played Purdue last time, it seemed like this is going to be a tough one. And we needed it to get to the bowl. And we just shellacked them 40 to something. I hope that's not in their head like, oh, yeah, we're going to get good this week. We'll get good. But Purdue, and this is as far as turning this corner, turning the hump as a program, it's tough. Purdue's been the last 2 years trying to turn it, but they just haven't been able to turn it all the way. And just this year, they're 1-2. But, oh, well. Remember last year, well, what was Nebraska? 0-5, 0-6? We called for the win. We called for Nebraska to win. Why? Because it's called living in Loserville, folks. You guys got to catch up. This is what happens. And we're both like positive, outlooking people in life. We hope for the best, but we're also realists. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, that'd be nice. But with the BUT capital, I mean, they lose on a 57-yard field goal, first game of the year to Nevada. I think the dude was dude got he was a walk-on, got a scholarship after, 34-31. Then beat a decent Vandy team. Then it was like, all right, you got TCU at home. Let's see what you got. And they didn't have much. They got beat at home 34-17. Now they're coming off a bye as well, and they got to be licking their wounds as well. We're going to need some consistency out of that offensive line, 100%. We got to have that first and foremost, because we're going to be really trying to, we're going to be trying to run the shit out of the ball. And the way we closed last year offensive line, we need that offensive line to show up.
Yeah, both fronts. I mean, young defensive line we've got too. It's going to be tested by some older players that have been tested in the Big Ten. And in Purdue, they had a rough non-conference, like you said, and that's a few tough losses. And TCU's no slouch coming up from Texas, the great state of Texas. So, they're not a bad team to lose to, particularly in the non-conference. And in fact, we would have had a hard time with them as well. And you got to think that Purdue's licking their chops with the Gophers coming in, and this is where PJ's row the boat. Keep on the sunny side mentality is really going to be tested, because you got a young team, still young, going into the first game in the Big Ten on the road with a team that you beat last year at your place in the snow, looking for a little revenge, I think. And that offensive line's still a little bit shaky. And I don't know if, do we get Shannon Brooks back this week? We could sure use him. And we need to, just be dominant in the fronts is what really needs to happen. Obviously, tackle well, no turnovers will help. All the road rules that you need in Big Ten football, you're going to need. I don't, by any stretch of the imagination, think this is going to be an easy game to win. It's a push, if you ask me. I don't know what Vegas has, but it's going to be a tough one for the Gophers to win. If they win it, we're on our way to a season to remember, I think. If they lose, I think we're still in a good season, but, this is one that you probably think that you should have won. But, like you said, we're positive outlooking people. But at some point, if they make this game dramatic, the bubble's going to burst. So I'm going to give this game to Purdue. I wrote down 33-10 because I feel if the Gophers lose, it's going to be because the wheels come off, not because of anything else in particular. And I got a feeling that the wheels are going to come off a little bit, and reality is going to hit these kids in the face, and it's going to happen in West Lafayette, Indiana.
Well, one thing is they give up a gang of rushing yards. Purdue does. Now, that's not to say we don't either. And that's a great point about that defensive line. Last year, put up like 265 put on them. TCU ran a rock shot all over. So, it does feel like, although I do hear you on the snap you back to reality, and this is like that type of game. Oh, they're 1-2. Oh, okay. We'll just walk in there. Last year we beat them. Oh, okay. It's sweet. We'll just beat them again. It does. And Purdue needs a big win. This guy who started to turn the program around, started moving the ball on offense, the coach for Purdue, he needs a big win, for Christ's sakes. And so, although I totally see your point, I really do, because it does seem like we're set up. Like, all my instincts tell me we're going to lose an ugly game. But for some reason, I feel like we're going to be able to run the ball. And I do think we get Rodney back. And actually, that part of the equation is a tough one as far as the health there, because we definitely need, Abraham back, or, we need some of these guys, no doubt about it. And so there is some in between on that, no doubt about it. But I'm going to go with the Golden Gophers to secure a road win. If we're able to get that 4-0, I mean, the bowl games, you might as well just give it to us. We'll get to 6 wins at that point. Looks like they're having problems selling tickets. The tickets on Vivid Seats go for $15. That kind of tells you can generally not get into that. But both sides, I think this is going to be kind of a shootout, dude, because right now both sides are giving up right around 30 points a game. It just Purdue they're more of a passing, offense than a rushing offense. So I think that it's going to be a lot closer than last year, but I feel like it's going to be 30-23 or 30-27, but the Gophers get out alive, 4-0 on the season. Anything else you'd like to add to this episode of the Purple People Eaters Living in Loserville podcast, sir?
Chris, do you think we've gotten to the point now with the Gophers football team that we can sort of assume 6 wins a season? Are we not quite there yet? You brought up the bowl game, and I'm thinking, are we still talking about whether or not we're going to get 6 wins or not? And I'm thinking, are we there? Is this where we are still? Or are we a little bit past that? And what's your view on it? I feel like we're a little bit past that. I feel like 6 should be something that, we should be talking about 7 and, possibly 8 at least yearly now. Where do you stand?
I think the 6 right now, it should happen, especially this year with the schedule. But, yeah, I think we should be bowl eligible every year. We'd have to have some major injuries, knock on wood, to not get 6, I think, this year. But, yeah, I think we're 6. I can't call for 8 a year just yet. Kill did get back-to-back 8 wins, 8-4, which was crazy. We lost the bowl game the next year. They won the bowl game against Washington State, so we did get to 9 that year. Actually, I'm sorry. We beat Washington State when we got in 6-6, so that's totally different. Actually, we got in 5-7 that year and got to 6-7. I forgot about that. But Yeah, I think we're sixth. I think we're a bowl eligible team, and if we're not, we got problems. Yeah, I think we're there. It's just a matter of now, can we get to 8 a year, and then try to every 3 to 4 years. You notice Wisconsin, they're pretty damn close to 9 to 10, but some of that has to do with their non-conference. Some of it doesn't. But if you look at Iowa and Wisconsin, every 3 to 4 years will get that 11 game win streak, or even go undefeated for the regular season, then get beat or whatever. So I think, we're not quite all the way to the point where we got 8 wins. Now it's just a matter of really fine tuning this team, getting it at the right time as far as the the sophomores, juniors, and all that. And then you can really kick in and it's basically how the coach at Iowa keeps his job. Every 3 to 4 years, he has a great season, and then he's 7-5, 9-3, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I agree with you. Eight's a little too much. I mean, maybe not this season with the schedule that we've got, but I think it'll still be a tough road to hoe to get 8 wins. And I think you're right to pump the brakes a little bit and just kind of get the 6-win plateau. I think we've done that. It should be bowl eligible under this coaching regime yearly, and shouldn't be worrying about making a bowl game. Now, you go on to the level of bowl, and that goes up with 8 to 9 to 10 wins. And, you got Wisconsin on your schedule every year. You got Iowa on your schedule every year. And you take a look around the Big Ten. Illinois had an impressive game last week. Nebraska's looking good. So this whole side of the Big Ten is coming up. I mean, Rutgers is still Rutgers, but that's really the only team in the Big Ten where you go, that should be easy. Everything else is going to be a dogfight. And the schedule that we had starting this season doesn't seem to be the schedule that it's forming to be. So Illinois is going to be tough. Nebraska is going to be tough. It's going to be a tough season, starting with Purdue. Like I said, I feel like we dropped this one. I hope we don't. I hope we're on the road to 4-0 and go Gophers.
Yeah, and just like Maryland, they're putting up points, then they kind of fell off, but they're going to put up some points on us. You're right. It's going to be a grinded out game. And those 3 games are either going to be exactly those type of games, and it was good that we were in them against good programs, or it was kind of like foreshadowing. And it's like, yeah, how we fucked up in those games? Yeah, now this is the Big Ten. So, yeah, it's going to tilt either way. But, yeah, let's shut this puppy down. Thanks again, as always, for joining us for the Living in Loserville podcast, talking Minnesota Vikings Purple People Eaters Edition. Peace. We'll see you next week. Go Vikes, go Gophs.